Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. And today I just wanted to talk to you about my favorite team, the Dallas Mavericks, because they've been on a roll lately. They've won 6 games in a row, and not only that, both of their pieces that they added at the trade deadline, Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, have looked really good. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in depth, so let's get into it. So, 6 game win streak. That might not sound like much to some people, but it's one of the longer win streaks the Mavericks have had in the past couple years. I think since 2020, I think 7 games is their longest. But they're rolling right now. They're playing really well. And one of the big things that stands out about this win streak is that they've been playing good defense. Now, all year, the Mavericks have not really been a good defensive team, but for these last 6 games, they've been playing really good defense. Even before Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington came in, they were playing some pretty good defense for those first couple games on this streak. Now, we've seen Jason Kidd get good defense out of the Mavericks before in his first season with the team, but the last 2 years, this one and the year before, we haven't really seen the same kind of quality defense that we saw that first year. And we're finally kind of starting to see that again. And, that begs the question, is this sustainable? Can they keep this up? And, me, when it comes to the Mavericks, I tend to be a little bit more optimistic, but I'm going to try to take a step back and really look at it. And I think it could be sustainable, not maybe as good as they're playing right now, but I think they can keep up a pretty good defense, at least above league average defense as opposed to being a really bad defense like they were before. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the energy this team is playing with is really great. Maxi Kleber's been back from injury. He's a good defender. And then as well as Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, those are both quality defenders. In Daniel Gafford's case, a pretty great defensive big to have in the middle. So with the collective effort of all these things, I think the Mavericks can keep up a good defense through the rest of the year and into the playoffs. Now let's talk a little bit more about Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington specifically. Daniel Gafford has been great. He came in with a huge game right away, had 19 points, 9 boards, and like a block in that first game, I believe. And then he followed it up with another great game. He had, I think it was something like 15 points and 17 rebounds, or 17 points and 15 rebounds, something crazy like that, with like 4 blocks to go with it. And he's just been really good. He's been playing good defense, which is what we really need him to do. He's been a great lob threat, other than in this last game against the Spurs. But, throwing lobs over Wemby isn't the easiest thing to do in the world. But he's been really good for us. And PJ Washington, some people might say he hasn't been that great for the Mavericks, especially because of his shooting numbers. Other than that first game where he had a decent scoring game, he hasn't been shooting the ball super well. But he's been doing pretty much everything else on the court really well. He's playing good defense. He's making good passes. He has a couple moments where he looks a little like he's still kind of getting used to the offense. And the shots are going to start falling. I really like what I see from PJ Washington, even if the shots aren't falling quite yet. And I'm confident that they will at some point. And over these past stretches before we went on this win streak, the Mavericks were kind of falling off a little bit, falling in the standings. But we were pretty banged up. There were a lot of people hurt. Dante Exum's been out for a little bit. Maxi Kleber's missed a lot of time in and out. Kyrie missed a lot of time. Luka even missed a little bit of time. We were pretty banged up. And now we're starting to see this healthy team again, and they're getting back on track with this, as I said before, 6-game win streak. I feel like I need to stop saying that. I'm saying it too much. But they're just playing really well. The defense is better. The offense looks great. And there's just a new energy out there. Now, Dante Exum still isn't back. And Maxi Kleber just missed this last game. I don't think that's anything too major, but, hopefully he's back and we have our full lineup going forward. Or at least for the most part. But that brings up one thing that I want to talk about. This team's depth. I think typically the Mavericks have been looked at as a very top-heavy team with not much underneath. But I think now, after this trade deadline and with the players that we have, this is one of the more deep teams that we have in basketball. So it starts with Luka and Kyrie, obviously. They're great. But now we have PJ Washington, who can, he scored multiple 40-point games throughout his career. He's shown that he can be a pretty good scorer, and he plays solid defense. He's a really good player to have. Daniel Gafford is really good. He's basically Derek Lively it's basically like having two Derek Lively's on the court, except Daniel Gafford is, you know, a little more experienced. And then obviously we still have Derek Lively. We have Derek Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr. Who else? We have Dante Exum when he comes back. Maxi Kleber, who I think is a very underrated player. Not only is he a capable perimeter defender as a big man, he can play solid defense down low. You don't necessarily want him matching up with the better centers in the league, but he can hold it down when he needs to, and he can get out on the perimeter. He's looked really good as of late. He's been hitting his threes. He's been creating off the dribble a little bit for himself when teams don't give him the respect. He's kind of taking advantage of that. He's attacking a little bit more, which I really like. Sometimes he plays very passive in the past, but he's playing a little more aggressive. He's shooting his threes. He's getting dunks off the dribble, and it looks really good. Even Jaden Hardy has been stepping up lately. Since, I think, the beginning of the new year, Jaden Hardy has been playing really well for us. You know, he doesn't play a lot of minutes, but when he's in there, he's hustling. He's playing better defense than he was before, and he's making his shots a lot more often than he was before. Also, I got to give a quick shout out to AJ Lawson. He doesn't get in much, but whenever he's in, I really like what I see out of AJ Lawson. But yeah, so that health will be a major factor when it comes to the playoff time. If this team can be healthy, I think they could be pretty dangerous in the playoffs, especially with Luka and Kyrie at the top. I don't think... Okay, that's not true. I was going to say I don't think any other teams has two scorers as dangerous as that. But that's not true. The Suns, they have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and then they even have Bradley Beal. But, Luka... Watching Luka play basketball is crazy. It's it almost doesn't make sense how good Luka is sometimes. He ends the game with 35, 12, and 10, and that's just another game for Luka. We're not even talking about it. It's oh yeah, Luka did Luka things. And then Kyrie, he just went off against the Spurs. It's the Spurs. They haven't been great this season, but he had a huge, I think it was third quarter, where he had 17 or 18 in the quarter, if not more. But really got the Mavericks back in the game, where they were struggling a little bit offensively to start that game. But you can see the danger of having a player like Kyrie and Luka that can kickstart an offense like that when the rest of the team's having an off night, and kind of let everyone else get their feet back under them and take over the load for the time being. Now, as a result of the 6-game win streak, the Mavericks have moved back up one spot in the standings as of right now when I'm recording this. They're at number 7 right now. So still in the play-in tournament. And when you look at the Western Conference, they're not really out of the woods yet. There are a lot of great teams in the Western Conference, and they're all playing pretty well lately. I think right now the worst team as of late in the playoff picture in the West has been the Kings, and they're 5-5 in their last game. Or last 10 games. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games, which means they've gone 500, And that's the worst out of the top 10 teams in the West as of lately. The Lakers have been playing better lately. The Warriors have been playing better lately. The Suns have been playing really well lately. So it's a really, it's just a battlefield out there in the West. So with the Jazz doing the trades they did, they've kind of bowed out of the playoff picture. So there's really no danger of the Mavericks falling out of the top 10. I think they definitely will be in the top 10 no matter what. But we really need to wait and see about is, can this defense maintain itself, and will they be able to stay in the 7-6 area, or will they be able to get up to 6, I guess, really, because 7 and 8, they're still in the play-in tournament. The real goal is to get up to 7 so you can avoid the play-in tournament entirely, because as much as I like the Mavericks and I would like to pick them for winning a play-in series, it's facing LeBron James in the play-in tournament is not a place you want to be. Facing Steph Curry in the play-in tournament is not a place you want to be. Those guys can go off for one game. They can take over. And that's not a scenario where you want to be in. I think the Mavericks could handle it. But if you can avoid that, I think you'd want to avoid that at all costs, So can they get up to the 6th spot? Obviously they could, but with how many great teams there are in the West, it's not a certainty. So we're just going to have to wait and see about that. But yeah, they just played their last game before the Western Conference, not with us, Western Conference. Their last game before the All-Star break uh, against the Spurs. They won that one in a pretty convincing fashion, even after a slow start, so that was good to see. But they don't play their next game until I think it's the next Thursday after the All-Star break against the Phoenix Suns. And, whenever the Mavericks and the Suns play, it seems like there's bound to be something going down. And the Suns have been rolling pretty well lately. They've been playing pretty well. They got some new players in at the trade deadline, just like the Mavericks did. Not as high quality of play. I feel bad saying that, but not as good of players as the Mavericks got in the trade deadline. I think most people would agree with that, or darn near all people would agree with that, other than Royce O'Neal. I don't know. He'd probably disagree. Because he got traded to the Suns, just in case you didn't know that. But yeah, it should be a good game. I'm excited to see if the Mavericks can keep up their defense. I think they will. They'll be coming fresh off the All-Star break. They'll be reinvigorated a little bit, hopefully. Maybe they might be a little sluggish, but hopefully they come in locked in, ready to play with a new energy. And I really can't wait to see what happens. The same could be said about the Suns. Everyone's getting this break. Everyone will have, this amped up energy, or lackadaisical. We'll just have to wait and see about that. But it should be a good game. I'm excited to see. I think the Mavericks could definitely close that game out. Suns are good. They're a good team. Obviously, they have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, all that. But I think the Mavericks have more depth, even with the Suns additions that they got. And I'm just excited to see what the Mavericks can do the rest of the season. With their new additions in Gafford and PJ Washington, I kind of feel ridiculous saying this, but I feel like I definitely have them winning a playoff series in my mind. Well, we have to wait and see what the matchups are, because it's really going to be a grind in that Western Conference playoffs. Let's look at how the standings shake up right now, like who they'd be playing. So right now, the way the playoffs would shake up, if we kind of ignore the play-in and we just do the 7 and 8 seed, just like how they used to be normal, so 7 will play 2, they'd be matching up against the Thunder. And I think the Mavericks actually match up against the Thunder really well. They just beat them by by 30-something the other day, that first game after the trade deadline. And then earlier in the season, in a loss to the Thunder, it was a loss, but the Mavericks went on like this crazy 30-point comeback, like 30-point run or something. I forget the exact details because they lost, and I was kind of upset after that insane comeback. So I kind of put it out of my mind. But we've seen the Mavericks play some great basketball against the Thunder, and I think, especially with this better defense, they would match up pretty well against the Thunder. Clippers are dangerous. The classic Luka versus the Clippers matchup in the playoffs. That would be dangerous. Nuggets, as much as I hate to say it, I can't really bet against the Nuggets. They're just such a good team, a well-oiled machine. They know what it takes to win a championship. They did it last season. And Minnesota Timberwolves, I think the Mavericks match up pretty well against them too. So, really, Suns, same. I feel like the Mavericks could beat all of these teams we see in the playoff picture. Nuggets and Clippers are the two I'm most concerned about. But I like how we match up against the Thunder. I like how we match up against the Timberwolves, Suns, even the Pelicans, Kings, and then the Lakers and Warriors, whatever. So I could see, it shaking out with the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, maybe even going to the Finals. I'm going to pump the brakes on that, because if I had to, let's look at it objectively. Right now, I'm probably taking the Nuggets. That'd be my pick to make it out of the West. But I'm also really looking at the Clippers. The Clippers have a lot of talent. They play really well together. And health permitting, I know that's a big if for the Clippers, but they've been healthy all year. So I really think the Clippers have a good chance of making it to the finals as well. So I would probably hold off on them taking the Mavericks as my pick, but I could see a world where it happens, and I want that world to come true. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to talk about the Mavericks a little bit. They've been really good lately, and I've been watching a lot of their games. And I really like Daniel Gafford, and I really like PJ Washington. I just had to get this. I just had to get this out. I'm really excited about what's to come. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, maybe leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I would really appreciate it. And I think that's pretty much all I had for you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.